I see red rum. I hear red rum. I taste red rum. I see red. I see red. I see red. Whose blood is there? I see red. The system don't love us, want us dead. Propaganda put this fear in my head. Trump don't love you, want you dead. Illuminati wanna paint the soil red. Skull and bones want us off the planet dead. I want my mark in the soil for my set. So these bitches and these niggas don't forget who put the driving motivation in your head. Who saved you niggas from the nightmares in your bed. I hear the beat go on and I just see red. I felt my mama crying, now I see red. I see my sister dying, now I see red. Who put this poison in my body, in my head? I see my family hurting, now just see red.
I want you to look up the original definition of terrorism. The original definition of terrorism is government by intimidation. Look it up. Government by intimidation. I want you to think about what our government and our news does to us, from 9/11 to killer germs. They scare us through the screen, and then they tell us to give up our rights and liberties, and they tell us to submit to a surveillance state, and they tell us to stay in our homes and give up our jobs and our way of life. And look at what it does to us. Think about all the young children growing up right now with all the fear, the non-stop fear, constantly being blamed on false threats, whether it's a boogeyman in the cave or supposedly some deadly germs.
Got rid of the Taliban in Afghanistan. The Taliban did not want poppy plants and opium in their country. We killed the Taliban and we brought back the poppy and opium production, and now the world is flooded with heroin and fentanyl, and Big Pharma is making the biggest profits they ever have. All over the streets, people are addicted to not only heroin, they're addicted to things like Percocet 30s. And Big Pharma is gloating about how much money, how many record profits there are right now. You guys think about this. The Bible, Genesis 11:9. Genesis 11:9, if you're not familiar, is where the Tower of Babel, the story ends. The Tower of Babel, the tower that divides the world, it ends in Genesis 11:9. The majority of the world writes the date, September 11th, 11/9. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but from the day that Obama took office to the day that Osama was killed was exactly 119 weeks. 119. And they said Osama was killed in Pakistan. Please look up the founder of Pakistan. He was killed on September 11th. Go figure. There's also something known as the 9/11 of Chile, where the CIA went in and overthrew their leader. That also happened on September 11th. That was our CIA. Speaking of the CIA, George Herbert Walker Bush, not to be confused with George Walker Bush, who was the president when 9/11 happened. He was the 11th director of the CIA. George H.W. Bush, the 11th director of the CIA, on September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day of the attack, he gave a speech about a new world order, a world freer of terrorism. And we all know what happened 11 years later. Again, New York, the 11th state, the buildings that look like an 11 that came down after flight AA-11. 11 is the master number in numerology. You might think numerology is stupid. You might think astrology is stupid. You might think that's old world fashioned stuff. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but the people who rule over us, it's very important to them. They use it every single day. And again, notice the number 119. If you don't know how numerology works, you just add a bigger number until you compress it to either a single digit or the number 11 or 22. 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11. Before 9/11, one of the biggest tragedies in this nation's history was JFK. He was killed on 11/22. 11 is the master number, 22 is the master builder number. And here we are in 2022, trying to undo what this corrupt cabal does to us every single day, using this occult knowledge to torment us. Now, if you've never heard this word before, please look it up. Gematria. Gematria. The word gematria is a biblical practice. It is the practice of coding numbers into words. And the reason you must know this practice is because it reveals what's really being done. Again, I just told you that from when Obama took office to when Osama was killed was exactly a span of 119 weeks. And again, he was killed in Pakistan. He was killed in Pakistan, Osama, so they tell us. But again, the founder of Pakistan was also killed on September 11th. Right now in Pakistan, they are underwater. And in astrological terms, people might blame Poseidon for the current flooding of Pakistan. The old world would say, oh, that's Poseidon that's done that. Well, are you aware that on the World Trade Center was the trident of Poseidon? You can go down to the museum right now and they have an exhibit called Trident Strong. You guys, the trident is the spear of Poseidon. In Gematria, Poseidon equals 119. Osama bin Laden was killed in Operation Neptune Spear. Operation Neptune Spear. Neptune is Poseidon in astrology. You guys, numerology and astrology are very important to the people who govern over us. It's old world occult knowledge that's always been shared and held by the ruling elite. Nothing has changed from the time of Babylon to right now. This is New Babylon. And again, if you learn this knowledge, you will see through what's going on every single day. That is not an exaggeration. Just as it's so current, you guys, I want you to think about this one too. We just heard about the death of Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth just died exactly 911 days after the pandemic was declared. The pandemic was declared March 11th, 2020. She died September 8th, 911 days later. Of course, Corona means crown. She wore the crown. Now she's been replaced by her son, King Charles. If you got a question for us, come talk to us, sir. You don't got to yell at us and walk by. We're happy to answer your questions. Yeah, it takes courage to come confront somebody face to face instead of scream at them from a mile away. But anyhow, you guys, here's something I really want you to look into. I want you to understand why there were 2 towers that became 0, that became 1. It's the same reason that right before coronavirus, the same people who are now profiting from the pandemic had something called Event 201. If you don't know about this, please look it up. You all got your smartphones in your pocket. Type in Event 201. You will see it took place October 18th, 2019. It was a simulation of a coronavirus pandemic put on the exact same day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China. That's a major coincidence. And some of us use that word way too much to dismiss what's really going on, like these ladies walking by looking and laughing. Took place in your city. On 9/11, 2 towers became 0 before they became 1. I'll tell you something else, another big 201 in history, because it's another hot topic right now. 5 years before the World Trade Center was opened on April 4th, 1973, there was a major tragedy in this nation. April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And exactly 201 days later, this nation had its first gun control laws. This is going on all throughout history, guys, these same patterns. Creating major tragedies and then taking away our rights and liberties and blaming it on boogeymen, patsies, people who aren't really responsible for the crimes. Again, you guys, there's that phrase in the Bible, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. I thank all the people who've walked by and then stopped to listen for a moment, but those people have been few and far between. For all of you guys who just walk by as we talk about the truth of the biggest lie that's resulted in the deaths of millions of people, understand you are part of the problem. All of you guys who just believe
what the authority tells you day after day. I want you to think about that word believe. Spell it out. Spell out the word believe. How do we spell it? It has a bizarre spelling. B-E-L-I-E. Lie. V-E. Be the lie. How many of us are being a part of the lie? How many of us don't care about the lie? You guys, this is why we continue to be tormented and harassed by the ruling class psychopaths who govern over us. The problem with this world is we've been raised. Well, think about it, you guys. How many of you really wanted to be in that classroom, sitting there in your desk, getting those mostly meaningless lessons while you were told you were so free? We're going to pause for the fire department. I'm going to pass the microphone to my friend Arthur, another great researcher in this community who wants to make this world a better place, who's right here from New York. We need the rest of New York to become like homegrown Arthur right here. Listen to this man speak. He's brilliant.
Hello, everybody. My name is Arthur. I'm from the Bronx. You see my skin color? A lot of you say, you know, I'm not going to listen to that guy because he's not the same skin color as me. And that's the problem. You guys are judging people on the color of their skin and not what they're telling you. You know, when I came across this work, I was like, let me see if it's true. So what I did, I applied the information that I was listening to verify if in fact what the person was telling me was factual. One of my favorite riddles of all. 1 second, you guys. You know, one of my favorite riddles of all time is something I just spoke about moments earlier. Jay-Z, one of the biggest rappers out of New York City, he put out the greatest album of all time, The Blueprint, the same day that the Twin Towers fell. Well, that's just a coincidence, Arthur. No. Jay-Z is the CEO of Rockefeller Records. The Twin Towers were made possible by the Rockefeller brothers, David Rockefeller and his brother Nelson Rockefeller, who was the governor in 1968. Remember that number, 1968. David Rockefeller, he brought the idea to the forefront, and his brother, who was the governor, he signed it into legislation in 1968. Now, why does that matter? Just think about it. The CEO of Rockefeller Records drops his album the same day that the Rockefeller buildings come down. Did you guys know that the Twin Towers had nicknames? They did. One was called David, and the other one was called Nelson, after the Rockefeller brothers. So literally, the Rockefellers came down and dropped the same day that the CEO of Rockefeller Records dropped the Blueprint. And what does blueprint mean? Well, it's a design plan. And that's what 9/11 was. Oh, speaking of 9/11, what are the odds that 911 was made the emergency dialing code in 1968? Remember 68? The name Sean Carter equals 68 in his language of gematria. Do you guys know who died on the 68th day of the year in 1997? The Notorious B.I.G. He was the biggest rapper out of Brooklyn, the biggest rapper. He was literally the king of New York, but then he died 213 days after his daughter's birthday in a drive-by shooting, which equals 213, just like how Tupac died 213 days after his All Eyes on Me album came out on February 13th, when drive-by shooting and death are both 213, but that's a different story. Back to 68.
LA 213 area code.
Yes, he died in 213 area code, Biggie Smalls. Back to 68. So Biggie Smalls dies on the 68th day of the year. You guys remember his debut single, Juicy? He said he wants to get paid and blow up like the World Trade. Wow, how did he know that? Because that song came out in 1994. But the Twin Towers fell in 2001. Wait, that's just a coincidence though. Just like it's a coincidence that Prince, he put out a song called Obama's Getting Ready to Bomb. You guys ever heard it? Go on YouTube. Prince, he put out a song called Osama is Getting Ready to Bomb in 1999. That was what, 2 years before 9/11. How did he know? I gotta get back to New York. Gotta get ready for the bombs. Back to 68. George Bush graduated from Yale University in 1968. That same year, 911 was made the emergency dialing code. That same year, the construction began for the Twin Towers. Wow. You guys remember what I said about 97, right? Jay-Z became the biggest rapper in the year 97. You guys know who died at the age of 97? John Rockefeller, the grandfather of David and Nelson. Wow, another coincidence, man. How many does it take? You know, you guys want to know one more fun fact? 13 days, 13, remember that number because the Illuminati loved that number. 13 days after his album came out on September 14th, 2001, Jay-Z put out a freestyle. You guys want to guess what he called it? He called it 911. Letting people know that his album dropped the same day that the Twin Towers dropped, and people didn't even catch on. The CEO of Rockefeller Records. Man. Speaking of Jay-Z, think about it. He puts out his biggest album on 9/11, the day that Osama supposedly brought the towers down. And then what did he do 7 years later? He put out a song called My President is Black and got Obama elected. What's the difference between the name Osama and Obama?
BS.
The letters B and S, like bullshit. Speaking of bullshit, how many Kobe Bryant fans are here? Raise your hands. Kobe Bryant. Did you guys know he scored 81 points on his 666th career game? Did you guys know that? Be honest, does anybody know that?
I did.
Well, in that same game, his teammates scored 41 points. Remember that number, 41. In gematria, the name Kobe Bryant equals 41. His last game, remember against the Utah Jazz, he took like 50 shots and still was able to score 60 points. Well, they took him out the game with exactly 4.1 seconds left on the clock. 4.1. Like how he died in a helicopter crash 41 minutes after takeoff. With a pilot named Ira Sabanya, a guy whose name equals 41. Man, and why is 41 so special? Well, because in gematria, USA equals 41. That's why the towers came down on a day with 41 numerology. If you're new to this, if you're just listening to this first time, then all you have to do is search what is gematria. Also, look into the Illuminati. There's not a conspiracy theory. The Illuminati is a real thing. And they control you guys every single day, and you don't even notice it. One more riddle before I end it. How many people ever came across the number 42? Anybody?
Of course.
Well, if you're a black person, then you probably know this. Jackie Robinson, the first black baseball player, he wore the number 42, right?
Yep.
Okay. Did you know his name Jackie equals 42? There was a black baseball player that came before him. His name was Moses Walker, who played exactly 42 baseball games, and his name equals 42. I actually, speaking of 42, not too long ago I wrote a poem. You guys want to hear it?
Let's hear it.
All right, it goes like this. Actually, I forgot. Let me just, what is it? Okay. Let me just look at it, guys, because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Take your time. Take your time.
This is gonna be a good one. This is a good one. For all you people who like coincidences, right? Let's see. I want to see you guys debate this one.
Coincidence theorist. Coincidence theorist.
Okay, here we go. You ready? Did you know the word nigger equals 42? Terms like slavery and bigotry, they do too. You see, Black History Month is in February, and February equals 42. You see, that number has been stamped all over Black history. It's so true. The first black baseball player was Jackie Robb, number 42. If you write out Jackie, that sums to 42. There was a guy named Moses Walker who played 42 games. And what does his name equal? Well, 42. Think about the Martin Show. He lived in apartment 42. And if you write out Martin, That sums to 42. His next door neighbor, Shanae, her name equals that too. You guys remember Ronnie King? Well, he was born on April 2nd, 4-2. You see, LeBron James, he lost to the Pacers by 42. And if you write out LeBron James, that sums to 42. His pops, Nate Thurman, he wore the number 42. LeBron was born December 30th. That's 42. Anthony Davis's birthday is 42 weeks before his too. What about his teammate Russell Westbrook, who set the triple-double record in a single season with 42? Oh man. You know, it broke my heart when DMX died because he was only 42. No, actually no. It broke my heart when he died because he overdosed on 4-2. It broke my heart when Mobb Deep died because he was 42. Did you guys know that Whitney Houston died 42 days into the year and her nickname was The Voice, and that's 42? I want to send the rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman, who played Jackie Robinson in the film 42. He died on Jackie Robinson Day. And guess how old he was?
42.
Just to add on to what he was saying about 42, you just heard the tip of the iceberg. Let's not forget, you guys, Jackie Robinson was in World War II, and he was part of the tank brigade called the Black Panthers. Again, in 2020, they started the baseball season late, so they had to move Jackie Robinson Day from April 15th to August 28th, which was Jack Kirby's birthday, the author of Black Panther. And some of you might be out there looking up and saying, no, it says Chadwick Boseman died at 43. Yeah, they did change that after the fact, but go read the article from 3 months prior about him being 42 years old and battling cancer, and look up when his birthday was. It was in November. So how did he turn 43 in August, 3 months before his birthday? They did that because people are starting to catch on. People are starting to catch on. When we started this work, there was almost none of us. But now there's thousands of us worldwide, and we're trying to bring thousands more in here in New York City, where one of the greatest injustices of the world ever happened. I know a lot of you guys still love Michael Jackson. Who likes Michael Jackson? Yeah. Did you guys see that on August 29th, what would have been Michael Jackson's birthday, they just announced a new moon mission? There was supposed to be the rocket launch on Michael Jackson's birthday, the Moonwalker. Remember, Michael Jackson turned 11 years old the year of Apollo 11. He was also the last performer right before 9/11. Of course, Apollo 11 was the moon mission. The moon mission, the Moonwalker. Michael Jackson turned 11 years old 40 days after the moon landing. Again, we're talking about gematria. Moonwalk equals 40 in gematria. So does United States. Special number to this nation's history. But again, on Michael Jackson's birthday this year, there was supposed to be a new moon mission, and it was going to last how many days, Arthur?
56? Oh, my bad.
They just announced a new moon mission from Michael Jackson on his birthday that was supposed to last 42 days. Now here's where this gets real interesting. It was going to end on the day, leaving 83 days left in the year. When did Michael Jackson first moonwalk? He moonwalked in 83 in Detroit, Michigan, Motown on the 42nd parallel, but also on the 83rd meridian west. And in gematria, Michael Jackson equals 83. So does Detroit, Michigan. Really? On Michael's birthday, a new moon mission, 42 days long, ending in this big 83 ritual? Again, you guys, you're looking at what we're talking about, you'll find out how it's all synced up. The news, the government, the politics, the sports, pretty much everything you see on the screens every day. It's part of one big script that's meant to control our minds and keep us from focusing on the things that we need to be focusing on. The fact that we're not really free. The fact that we're oppressed. The fact that we're lied to. The fact that as time goes on, we lose more and more of our rights and liberties, and in recent times, we've even lost bodily sovereignty. We can't choose what we have on our face. You know, we can't choose what chemicals are flowing through our body if we want to participate in society. Again, you guys, you have to wake up to what is going on. Time before I pass the mic, please know this. A lot of people do not know this about September 11th, 2001. Please look into George H.W. Bush's speech from 11 years to the day earlier. September 11th, 1990, he spoke very clearly about a coming new world order, a world freer of terror. And of course, 11 years later, his son was the president. George H.W. Bush was once the 11th director of the CIA. Keep that in mind. But again, on 9/11, the buildings that looked like an 11 came crumbling down on the 11th day of the month in the 11th state after reportedly flight AA-11 hit the building. And still to this day, a lot of people don't understand that 3 towers fell on 9/11. It's amazing how we cannot know this at this day and age. Buildings 1 and 2 everybody knows about. But 7 hours later that day, Building 7 fell. That means Buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell. They called it the new Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor happened on 1/2/7, December 7th. Where does the number 127 fit in with 11? It's in mathematics. 127 is the 31st prime number. 31 is the 11th prime number. And recall on July 31st this year, R.I.P. Bill Russell, the 11-time champion, died, who was a Hall of Famer in 75, only to be dead after the 75th NBA season after the Warriors became 7-5 in finals against the Celtics, But also that day, besides Bill Russell, we were told that Osama bin Laden's right-hand man was killed. 11 years after Osama bin Laden in 2011. And again, from the day that Obama took office to the day that Osama died was exactly 119 weeks. The majority of the world writes the date September 11th, 11/9. Genesis 11:9 is where the story of the Tower of Babel ends, the tower that divides the world. Another thing to look into is the text Art of War. The longest chapter is chapter 11, called the 9 Situations. That chapter is 68 paragraphs long. In 1968, World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. From his birthday, July 6th to September 11th is a total span of 68 days. In gematria, the word terror equals 68. That's the year Muhammad Atta was born, the lead hijacker. That's also the year Timothy McVeigh was born. And if you're not aware, Timothy McVeigh, who blew up the Oklahoma City building, so they say, in '95, that came exactly 68 days after the nation's first counterterrorism legislation was ever passed. And that legislation was led by Joe Biden, the sitting president right now. And it was passed on Frank Keating's birthday, who was the governor of Oklahoma at the time. I want you to look into the book, The Final Jihad. There's a book written by the brother of the governor of Oklahoma at the time, the name Keating. Look up the book written by the author Keating, The Final Jihad. In the same book, there is a man named Tom McVeigh who blows up the same Oklahoma City federal building.
All right, one last one. My favorite rapper of all time, I'm from New York City, Jay-Z. That's my favorite rapper. Well, not no more, because I found out what he's really about. He put out the blueprint on September 11th, 2001. Jay-Z, the CEO of Rockefeller Records. The same day, the Rockefeller buildings come crumbling down, like how Hulk Hogan said. We won't stop until the Twin Towers keep crumbling down. Go look up that video about it. Fighting the Twin Towers. They was fighting the Twin Towers in that. It's just crazy, man. But Jay-Z is the CEO of Rockefeller Records. The same day the Rockefeller buildings come down. Did you guys know that the Twin Towers had nicknames? One was called David, and the other one was called Nelson. And the reason they named them that is because of David Rockefeller and Nelson Rockefeller, who were both responsible for the creation of the Twin Towers. Right? David Rockefeller he brought the idea to the forefront. And Nelson, who was the governor at that time, he signed into the legislation and allowed the construction to begin in 1968. This is a fact. I know a lot of people shaking their head like it's not true. Go look it up. It's on New York Times. The Twin Towers, the nicknames was David and Nelson. So think about it. The same day that the CEO of Rockefeller Records drops his album, the Rockefellers are dropping. That's strange, right? In Gematria, right? Gematria, that's very important. The name Sean Carter equals 68. He became famous after Biggie Smalls died, who died on the 68th day of the year. Biggie Smalls' first song is Juicy. He talks about how he wants to get paid and blow up like the World Trade. He died in 97. Notorious equals 97. Rockefeller Records equals 97. The grandfather of David and Nelson, John Rockefeller, he died at the age of 97. The word death is 97. We saw a lot of death on September 11th. What a lot of people don't know is that 13 days after he released that album, Jay-Z put out a freestyle, and he named it 911 to mock people. And in that record, he told people, my album dropped the same day that the Twin Towers dropped. And people didn't catch on. The CEO of Rockefeller Records. One last point. Going back to 68. Remember, Sean Carter equals 68. The best rapper of all time before him was the Notorious B.I.G. He died on the 68th day of the year. The year 68 was huge because that was the year that 911 was made the emergency dialing code. That was also the year that the Twin Towers construction began. Guess who graduated from Yale University that year? George Bush. And what happened 68 days after his 2001 birthday? The Twin Towers came crumbling down. In Gematria, the word terror equals 68. That was his favorite word. Terror. Terror. CIA also equals 68. I won't be surprised if Jay-Z died 68 days after his birthday. But, yeah, anybody else wants to talk? I mean,
real quick again, I want to speak about the way they're dividing us in the rituals, you guys. George Perry Floyd's murder on Memorial Day. They had to tell us that the cop was on the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. What time did the first plane hit the tower on 9/11? It was 8:46. What's Minneapolis and St. Paul known as? The Twin Cities, the Twin Towers. If you've been listening, you've been hearing me talk about 201. Again, the Jesuits are originally from Paris, France. A lot of you might know the only footage of the plane hitting the first tower was captured by the Frenchmen. You guys might have seen that documentary. The name of those brothers in Gematria equals 201. Again, the Jesuits are from France. After George Floyd was killed, there was a massive protest in Paris, France, and two names were protested. Adama Traore and George Floyd. Adama Traore was killed on the 201st day of 2016. George Floyd was killed exactly 201 weeks later, and his name in Gematria, George Perry Floyd, equals 201. Now remember, the last French Pope was the 201st. The Jesuits are from France, founded by Ignatius of Loyola, whose name equals 201. The first Jesuit Pope is Pope Francis, whose birth name equals 201, and he's also the first to live in Suite 201. Again, you guys, this number is all over history, and it's completely Jesuit. After George Floyd was killed, the Confederate statues were torn down all over this nation, including the only Confederate statue in Washington, D.C., which was torn down on June 19th, 2020, of Albert Pike. From the day of the Albert Pike statue being torn down to the Capitol insurrection of January 6th was exactly 201 days later. The word Confederate equals 201, and the Confederate flag went through the city and the Capitol that day. Again, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. How many of you know who Abraham Lincoln blamed the Civil War on? Look into Abraham Lincoln's speech. He said there never would have been an American Civil War without the sinister influence of the Jesuit order.
Bringing this knowledge out. I don't care who says, oh, you're a moron. I don't care who condescends.
Right.
Some experience. That's what they do. But the fact that we have a courage to know the truth and stand up for is what breaks social law. Exactly. And that's why I tell everybody on the road is so don't yourself. Give yourself some credit. It's your heart and you're the one that has the courage to what's the pressure all this created, all this that have been raised to know what you know is right, you know what's the truth. So I support you and stay tuned because you know exactly what you smoke. We're going to smoke. We're going to break this company.
We're going to break out this megaphone. And welcome back. Nice t-shirts. Nice t-shirts. You guys saw this guy. Him and Will killed it with the speeches yesterday. So, yeah.
This is a former student of mine. He's the guy I was telling about yesterday. His name
That's what I was wondering right there. That was my first thought. Nice to meet you, man. I heard about you yesterday.
Exactly.
Awesome story.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I kind of got him going when he was a freshman. So he's now 21.
Isn't it terrible to see that a great teacher's been disenfranchised?
It's sad. It's really what it's doing.
That's what happened to me too, man. It's just they don't want the good ones. Yeah. It's a great thing you crossed his path.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real man right here. Raising another real man. Yeah. There you go.
Yes, they took it down. The title, I put Zach McHale in New York City 910, and they said, the drill about medical misinformation. They took it down. 10 minutes of the, you had like that 2 hours worth or whatever. So I put like 10 minutes of it. They took it down.
It's only a matter of time until they take mine. I'm surprised they haven't taken mine down already.
Yeah.
But I know they will.
They will. Yeah, it's coming. And the first time I've ever gotten a strike. I've had videos deleted before, and that's the first time I've ever gotten a strike. So now I can't upload. And I remember I was telling you yesterday I could go to like the long room and I was going to upload to YouTube. Now I can't upload anything for a week.
That's it's like this gentleman over here. This gentleman right here is a great teacher, and he lost his job because he stood up for what was right. Imagine if every teacher stood up for what was right, he would have lost his job.
Right.
Because they would have said, okay, never mind.
Yeah, there's like 121,000 UFT members, right? So what were they going to do? Fire 120,000?
No,
There's no way they could have done it.
It's just like in Costa Rica, they mandated the vaccine. Nobody got it, so they said, never mind.
Right. And when Governor Cuomo last year, or whatever, 2 years ago, said, all small business, you are non-essential. So therefore we're closing your business down. And they complied. Like, why would you comply? If you have a bakery or pizza parlor or restaurant, why would you comply? So, no, F you, I'm staying open. But the thing is, everybody had to stay open. Because you always heard about the one case, like there was the gym owner in New Jersey, there was the guy Max Ale House in Staten Island. So, they were like the strong ones. And then, if it's only one guy, they can come swooping in on you and shut you down. But if everybody would have stayed open, that's the thing, united we stand.
United we fall, exactly.
There you go.
And I would maybe adding that, just complying with tyranny, we fall even faster.
Yeah.
By the way, you guys, if anybody out there can download my videos from yesterday and save them, I'm at a hotel right now that does not have an internet connection, which I'm just like, wow. This story. How did this hotel have a 3.5-star review? This is the worst hotel I've ever been. They don't have an internet connection. 2022. But anyway, if somebody can download my videos, please. And when I get back home, send those to me because I'm pretty sure those videos are like they're not going to be up for much longer. He took a clip of my video yesterday and he got a strike for it.
Yeah, so they took it down. Like from the time I left the subway to the time I got home, I got the email from YouTube last night. They took it down.
From what video? I'm surprised mine's still up.
I videoed like 10 minutes of Zach doing his speech on 12th and Broadway.
Right.
I got like 10 minutes of it, and I put like Zach McHale 910.
Right, I know.
New York City, whatever.
Yo,
and boom, gone.
I'm sure Arthur's told you many times. It is 9/11. Remember, Flight 77 is the 77-foot tall Pentagon. 77 minutes after taking off, and again, look up all this stuff. It's all facts. However, Google in recent years has tried to change the height of the Pentagon, but look it up. It's actually 77 feet tall. Again, Flight 77, 77th Meridian, 77-foot tall Pentagon. Not to mention Pentagon construction began on September 11th, but in gematria, when you spell out September 11th as words, Manly P. Hall, I learned it for him. Alphabetic order numerology, the most important cipher. September 11th, 77. World Trade Center, 77. The Manhattan Project, 77. You know that they developed the big bombs that make big buildings turn into dust, like what happened here. And don't forget the terminology ground zero. That comes from the Manhattan Project. That's the point above or below ground where a hydrogen, atomic, or nuclear bomb explodes. And again, just little things like that. I mean, if we could get that and everybody's here in New York, some of them might be like, oh, because they're gone. But there's a lot of people who would get it. There's a lot of people who would get it, especially if they saw a group of diverse people like this all talking about, come out here, see this man's poster, his wife's poster, you know, all the message I've already got. You know, everybody's got a great message out here in a little bit different perspective, but we're all trying to make this world a better place. And we gotta stop, you know, beefing with each other, especially those of us in the community. So, apologies for being an asshole, you guys. Arthur coming out here makes me want to work on it even more. And, shout out to Arthur.
Dude, please stop and listen, you guys. Some of you are just... Oh, hold on.
It's not a speech, it's just a quick thing to everybody. All right, guys, the cops are over here. They're like, who's organizing this? Do you have a permit? There's nobody organizing this. We're all here for our free accord. This is a First Amendment. We're going to do our thing. I just want to say that. You don't have to be snitching and saying, oh, this person said we could be here.
How you guys doing? My name is Victor. I was born in New York. I'm a New York native. As a young teen, as an adult as well, the first thing that came across, well, really that I realized was how important numbers were. How important numbers were. So it has to do with your everyday life, right? Your weight, your age, the size, the time zone, street, money, prices. Numbers run the world. They run your life, right? So I just want to summarize one pattern that we recognize just pertaining to 9/11, okay? For all you coincidence theorists, this is a pattern that was recognized. Let's just talk about the number 77 and how important that number is. Flight 77, right? For those of you that don't know, crashed into the Pentagon 77 minutes after taking off. The Pentagon, 77 feet tall.
What else?
Located on the 77th Meridian West, right? World Trade Center equals 77. 77 minutes, my guy. United States equals 77. It happened on September 11th. For those of you that don't know, September is a Latin word rooted from the word septem, which equals 7. So 9/11 actually happened in the 7th month. 7 and 11, that correlation, 7 times 11 is what? 77. This day had a lot to do with that number 77. Okay? What buildings fell on 9/11? Buildings 1 and 2 that look like a big 11. But let's not forget about World Trade Center 7. 7 and 11 right there again, right in your face. They're playing with the same numbers over and over. For those of you who aren't aware, New York is the 11th state in the order of statehood. Write out the word New York. How many letters is in there? 7. Another 7 and 11. Plastered across your face on the most significant day in New York City. You people need to wake the fuck up, realize what's going on, and pay attention to what they're putting right across your face every single day. Numbers run your life. They run the world. The people that control this world are 100% aware of how important and ritualistic these numbers are. I woke up about, I want to say 10, 11 years ago, just focusing on that number 11 again. And for those of you that aren't aware of my work, my name is Mr. Futures. I prove every single day how professional sports, NBA, MLB, NHL, it doesn't matter, is scripted by this specific code. We got members of the community out here that are benefiting from this every single day, waking up from being within the system, actually flipping the script, okay? We're flipping it on the controllers every single day, helping people build residual income, offsetting the devastation that the pandemic put on people, firing people, getting them out of work, all financial difficulties that have happened in the last 24 months. Learn gematria, get in tune with what we're doing, and what I found is sports and sadly enough, finances is the easiest way to wake people up. It doesn't matter how much truth you throw in their face. This gentleman right here, Zachary Hubbard, has been trying to promote the truth and speak the truth going on a decade now. Nobody gives a fuck. So we wake people up every single day by showing them how they can pad their pockets and show people every single day how sports is scripted by these ritualistic code. Look up Gematria, look up my work, Mr. Futures, look up Gematria Effect News. Everybody out here, thank you very much, and I'll give the mic to somebody else. Salute.
And drastically reduce its budget. Well, the very next day, what happened? Go see if you can find yourself a copy of the New York Times from September 11, 2001. That story's right there on the cover. 2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. Well, guess what? Everybody forgot that story, and you know why. It's because those towers came down in a perfect demolition. And it wasn't just buildings 1 and 2, it was also building 7 hours later in the day. And what did they call 9/11? They called it the new Pearl Harbor. What day was Pearl Harbor? It was 1/2/7, wasn't it? December 7th. Buildings 1, 2, and 7 in the new Pearl Harbor. Again, if you're just walking by, we're educating about an ancient, simple practice of coding numbers into words. It's a simple truth. Shout out to the man. He's here. He's going to speak in a moment. In Gematria, ground zero equals 127. The terminology of ground zero came from the Manhattan Project. The original definition for ground zero is the point above or below ground where a hydrogen, atomic, or nuclear bomb explodes. Think about that for a moment. There was a great force on 9/11 that turned those buildings to dust. They fell into their own footprint. The new Pearl Harbor. Did you guys know that Pentagon construction began on September 11th, 1941, right before Pearl Harbor? If you didn't know that, you should look it up. Do you know what they reported at the Pentagon? There was no evidence of a plane, but they said Flight 77 hit the plane. Or hit the Pentagon, excuse me. And if you look it up in the 9/11 Commission report, it says it took off at 8:20 and it crashed at 9:37. Well, do the math on that. That is 77 minutes later. So Flight 77 on the Pentagon's birthday crashes into it 77 minutes later. And not only that, but Washington, D.C. is on the 77th meridian west. The Pentagon is also 77 feet tall. If you learn Gematria, you will find that when you spell out the words of September 11th, it equals 77. When you write out World Trade Center, it equals 77. When you write out the Manhattan Project, it equals 77. Think of the odds of these things. These buildings that come down in Manhattan, and they call it ground zero, the only 3 steel frame buildings to collapse in history from fire all fell on 9/11. How come the Empire State Building didn't fall down when the plane flew into it? Why is the Empire State Building still standing? We all learned in New York when a plane hits a building, hey, it doesn't even have to hit a plane. You know, again, you guys, we had 2 planes and 3 buildings. But the Empire State Building, built with older architecture, stood? How? How, you guys? You know why we go along with this? It's because of what happened to us in slave school. We learned that we weren't supposed to question the authority, didn't we? We were supposed to just circle, yeah, Christopher Columbus, he discovered the nation. Who cares about the people who were here? Shout out to Howard Zinn, who wrote A People's History of the United States. He documented Columbus's letter about how easy it was to murder the Native Americans, how easy it was to rape their women. And we celebrate that guy every year in this nation. That's the kind of nation we live in, that we celebrate a guy who liked to pick on people who had lesser technology, murder them, rape their women, take their land, and then we say, you know, he found the country.
Things are changing.
Come on, you guys. We've been taught our whole lives to believe what the authority tells us. Let's spell it together. Can we even spell it? That American education didn't do much of us, or any of us, much good. But have we ever spelled out believe? Have we ever spelled out the word believe? Let's spell it out. B-E-L-I-E. We're going to stop right there. Yeah, there's a B-E. I know, I'm not that dumb. But there's lie right in the middle, isn't there? L-I-E. Believe. Have you guys heard Anderson Cooper? It's safe and effective. You're not a real man if you haven't been pokey-doked. And by the way, this segment was brought to you by Pfizer. And here we're going to report about their record profits and also tell you about the sudden adult death syndrome. It's all just a coincidence, you guys. Just keep believing the authorities. It's safe and effective. Who needs to think? Who needs to question? Just believe the authority. Trust me, I learned this lesson a lot in school because I used to question a lot and I'd piss off my teachers, and I had a very good regular relationship with the principal. A lot of people thought I was a problem when I was a child. I'm a problem child. He doesn't respect authority. You know why I didn't respect authority growing up? Because I was being told I was free in the slave room where I was bored off my ass, where I already knew everything they were teaching me. 12 years, 13 years of the most boring, basic bullshit, being told things like Christopher, how many years did I have to learn about Christopher Columbus, the great discoverer? You guys, I'm from Seattle, Washington. You should go to Seattle, you guys. They're building the surveillance state there at Big Tech, the face recognition, all the stuff that's going to further enslave us. And you know who's building that technology? It's not Americans. It's people from other countries on work visas. You know why they're doing that? Because we Americans aren't smart enough for those tech jobs because they made us stunted. They dumbed us down. They wasted our time. In India and in China, they teach math and science. They don't teach their kids that Christopher Columbus discovered their land. You guys, we're so used to bullshit, we don't know what anything else tastes like. I've been speaking a lot. There's a lot of other great speakers here. I am going to pass the mic. But please stand around and listen. There's a lot of great minds here. And you guys, we really do need to change this world. We are losing our rights and liberties. This is not the land of the free, the home of the brave, but we really need to make it that, and we need to do it fast.
How does that manifest? What does that look like?
This man said, how do we do that? What does that look like? I have an idea what that looks like. No longer are we participating in any of the lies. We're not complying with what we're told to do or the agendas. We're not going out and voting in rigged selections. Let me tell you something about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. They're both Jesuit stooges. Joe Biden happens to be from Scranton, Pennsylvania, the home of The Office, that ran 201 episodes, where they put the number in damn near every episode. It's because there's a major Jesuit prep school in Scranton, and you see the flag in every episode. Joe Biden, when he became senator-elect in '72, just days later, his wife and daughter died in a car crash. What's the one with the laptop? Oh yeah, Hunter Biden survived. But anyhow, his wife and daughter died on Limestone Road. What does Limestone Road equal in gematria? Well, it just happens to equal 201. And what was made out of limestone? The pyramids. How many remaining layers of stone are on the pyramids? 201. Look it up. What does Great Pyramid of Giza equal in gematria? 201. Exactly, 201. And what day was the Great Seal drawn up for this nation? It was June 13th, 1782, the day leaving 201 days left in the year, and of course the pyramid is on that. A mark of the builders, like how there were 2 towers that became 0, that became 1. And you can tell they're paying tribute to the pyramid with this design. Take a look.
Yeah, I know.
Take a look.
Yeah, it's like a triangle.
Now, more recently, Joe Biden's son, Beau Biden, kicked the bucket at age 46, the same age JFK had his head blown off at, age 46. And we told people over a year in advance why Joe Biden would become number 46, because the election was November 3rd, 2020, exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. In the Catholic Bible, there are 46 books in the Old Testament, and in gematria, Catholic equals 46. Again, JFK, the only Catholic president before Biden, number 46. And wasn't it so nice that they made it so that number 46 took office in the year that President's Day fell on the 46th day of the year? That happened to be February 15th, 15/2. Joe Biden equals 152. These people are born for the throne. But also, Bo Biden dead at 46. Joe Biden inaugurated on 20/1 is number 46. The same Jesuit priest who was the president of Georgetown did the funeral and the inauguration. And I'll give you one guess what his name equals in gematria. It's Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, which equals 201. 201, you guys. You learn this number, you will understand who runs this nation. You will understand why the coronavirus simulation was called Event 201, put on by the Jesuit Klaus Schwab. You'll understand why the first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, is the first to live in Suite 201. And if you guys want to know where it's coming from, again, you must look into Kabbalah. The original code of letters and numbers is in Hebrew. And in Hebrew gematria, the word light equals 201. There's a secret society that was founded in 1776 on May 1st, just before this country, and that was the Order of Illuminati by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. Order of Illuminati equals 201.
I see red, red rum. I hear red, red rum. I taste red, red rum. I see red, I see red, I see red. Whose blood is there? I see red. The system don't love us, want us dead. Propaganda put this fear in my head. Trump don't love you, want you dead. Illuminati wanna paint the soil red. Skull and bones want us off the planet dead. I want my mark in the soil for my set. So these bitches and these niggas don't forget who put the drive and motivation in.